Hey there, sinners. It's Adam Knox, and welcome to 2022. Now, this is just a little bit of a pre-prep for your chat today. Your conversation today is with Bill Duvendack, who's been kind enough to bring us the Astrologer and these regular monthly inserts where he gives us a little bit of a taste of what's to come, as well as some spiritual and personal guidance in what do we do around that. Today's episode, I think, is especially useful as we start and kick stuff off this year. I do want to add, though, that we will only be back officially as of February. We're going through quite a couple of changes, we're adjusting, we're bringing some new segments in, and we're changing a few things around on the Cult of You site, as well as a new project that I'm collaborating with Bill on that'll also be announced during February. So I hope you don't miss us too much. I hope this segment at least gives you that, a little bit of spiritual support as you go through this time. And I look forward to seeing you again in February myself. But for now, sit back, enjoy Bill's exquisite wisdom, and remember to live deliciously.
Hi everyone, Bill Duvendack here with the monthly astrological preview video for January 2022. This might not be as long as other videos. You'll find out why here in a few moments. But if you are of the mindset that because you flipped a calendar page, the year is going to be any different immediately, sorry. I'm here to break your heart on that because we are now into the final corner of the astrological year, which doesn't end until the March equinox. So we still have a lot of ground to cover astrologically speaking. Thank you to the Cult of You and thank you to Adam Knox for hosting this every month. Coming up in February will be the 1-year anniversary of when we started doing this. And we're only going to continue and develop and grow from here. So keep watching things, keep checking it out, and watch for the expansion that is coming. Now, January 1st is generally New Year's Day. So at this point, it's pretty much an international holiday. So take the first to relax. Take the first to enjoy the fact that we survived another year around the sun. Take the first to think about what you want 2022 to look like. And then on the second, we have the new moon in Capricorn. So it's time to set those intentions. Capricorn energy is the energy of being an authority on a subject. It is the energy of the career, the occupation, the overall direction of life. And because of that, there's a lot of energy focused on being proactive, claiming your power, instilling confidence in yourself, and setting your intentions for the upcoming year. Every year around this time, we have a lot of stuff moving through Capricorn. What makes this year different is the fact that we also enter into January with a Venus retrograde. Now, Venus goes retrograde approximately every 2 years, and it is the planet that corresponds to love, beauty, creativity, money, the appreciation of all of those things, goddess energy. And I point this out because the Venus retrograde is saying there's still some things to wrap up in those life areas. And that's one of the ways that you can use the new moon on the second. Yes, intention set for the upcoming year, but also reevaluate what's going on with any or all of those traits. and maybe bring them to a resolution instead of intention setting. So right out of the gate, January starts off with a little bit of a bang. A new moon is a time for new beginnings, it's a time for cleansings and banishings. So it is a good time to get oriented after the year that 2021 was. Now, from there, for the next couple weeks or so, I don't want to say things are going to be calm, but they are going to be a lull in the action, so to speak. On January 13th, so a little less than 2 weeks after the new moon, Mercury retrogrades for the first time this year. Now, those of you that are familiar with Mercury retrogrades, you know that each year the sign that Mercury retrogrades in for the first time represents the element of the Mercury retrogrades for the whole year. And this year, the element that Mercury will be retrograding in is air. Mercury is considered the air planet. So what this means is that this is going to be a year where the Mercury retrogrades are more your classical understanding and interpretation of them. So miscommunications, misfires, maybe electronics going kaputs, anything like that you've read about from a very generic perspective is what you can expect for this coming year's Mercury retrogrades. And it starts right out of the gate in mid-January. This retrograde is happening in Aquarius and it lasts until February 5th. So if you have prominent Aquarius energy in your chart, then it's going to hit you harder than others. And this also applies to other air signs. It's going to be a little bit more intense of a year with the Mercury retrogrades. So I encourage you to kind of read up on it, brush up on it, check out my class on it, or at least kind of prepare for what's coming your way. 4 days after that, on the 17th, we have the full moon. So notice that this full moon is in the Mercury retrograde, which means this full moon could be more active than average full moons. And I think that is very powerful to consider. There have been decades worth of study that have talked about the effect the full moon has on people. So we know scientifically that there's a lot of power and energy in the full moon time. And if you don't believe me, ask teachers, ask people that work in emergency rooms, ask police people, ask fire people. They'll tell you all the same thing, that during a full moon, things get a little wacky. So when you factor in the Mercury retrograde, this one's going to be a doozy. Now, this is happening to bring our attention to the fact that even though we are done with 2021, 2021 is not done with us. And I think that's a powerful point to consider. So it may feel like this is the 13th month of 2021 when you look at the entirety of January. Now, on January 30th, in the middle of that Mercury retrograde, Venus moves direct. So you can expect things to return to normal, so to speak, with all traits that correspond to Venus. This is pretty crazy because as Venus moves direct, it's happening during a Mercury retrograde. So it may manifest like all of those situations returning to normal, only to have another monkey wrench thrown in the works. So because of that, you might get to the end of January and feel like, oh my God, this year's just going to be an extension of 2021, which was an extension of 2020. Oh my God, the year is already ruined and we're not even through January yet. Fuck it, I give up. Don't take that attitude, please. Yes, January is an active month. Yes, January is full of a lot of changes when you factor in Venus retrograde, Venus directing, then Mercury retrograde, Mercury directing on February 5th. But then February 6th, the day after Mercury retrogrades, we see all the planets in astrology are direct until April 28th. This is pretty profound and it's really pretty flippin' amazing. And it is a window of time that is a doorway to move ahead. All systems go. Usually we do get a period early in the year where all the planets are direct in the solar system from an astrological perspective, but usually it does not last this long. And that's the key. Generally, it's maybe a couple of weeks max, maybe 3, 4 weeks. But here we've got 2.5 months of forward momentum. Yeah, that's pretty profound. So on one hand, this time period can be used as a time to kind of catch your breath, astrologically speaking. With all the planets moving forward, though, it tells us now is the time to activate 2022. Between February 5th and April 28th is the time to move ahead. All systems go. You get the green light from the universe. You get the green light from spirit saying, you got through 2021, you handled the hangover month of January 2022, and now it's time to begin. So in that way, bringing it back to January, January is the month where you wrap up what's left over from 2021. So you begin to begin, but then February 6th is really when you begin. I'm pointing all this out because I don't want to see people get frustrated if January 2022 feels like just more of the same from 2021. On one hand, it is, like I have been discussing, but on the other hand, there is a golden dawn right on the horizon that begins February 6th, where you can really embrace the month. So if you're good with patience, just be patient for January. If patience is not your thing, hate to break it to you, you're going to get tested on that for all of January. So we see here that it's wise to enter into January with compassion, tenderness, patience, a resolve to resolve things. And what really kind of sets the stage in the background is that Jupiter just entered into Pisces. Jupiter is one of the ruling planets of Pisces. If your sun sign is Pisces and you were born during the daytime, Jupiter is your ruling planet. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It's the planet of prosperity. It is the planet of spirituality. It is the planet of ruling in a large fashion, whether it's your life or something else. And Pisces, of course, is the most psychic sign of the zodiac. It is the visionary sign. It is the progressive sign, but it's a mutable sign, so it's very much go with the flow. And its other ruling planet, Neptune, is already in Pisces and almost done with Pisces, really. So for the first time in a long time, we have both ruling planets of Pisces in the sign, which means that as much as January is known as being the month of Capricorn, there's such heavy Pisces influence that you could say it's more like the goatfish of Capricorn rather than the goat. So what this means is as you are moving through January, resolving all of these things that are left undone from 2021, also ask yourself, what are you doing spiritually? Specifically, how are you living it? That is a big question, and the elements in astrology are conducive to answering that question now and for yourself. For those of you that are familiar with aspects in astrology, Capricorn and Pisces make what are known as a sextile, which means an easy flowing exchange of energy. Sextiles generally manifest as talents. And as I said, it's an easy flowing energy. So what this means is that you've got Pisces, which is the highly spiritual and the future. And you've got Capricorn, which is the practical, the authoritarian, and the structures of society. Capricorn, of course, is an earth sign. Pisces is a water sign. So the main theme here, as you're navigating all of these changes that are going on in January, is to reevaluate your spirituality. Watch for spiritual inspiration. Watch for maybe new spirit guides and teachers coming into being, or perhaps you find the spiritual system that you've been longing for all your life. A lot of astrologers are talking about the fact that now's the time to make a wish, or you get the lucky breaks, because Jupiter is the planet of good fortune. And I agree with all of that, but the Capricorn influence should not be ignored. And therefore the lesson is, if you do decide to take your spirituality to the next level, or if your spirituality goes to the next level and you weren't expecting it, but it still shows up, then the next half of the equation is to ask yourself, how do I implement this on a daily basis? How do I put it to work for me? How do I live my truth? This is something I talk about extensively because it's an issue that I've seen repeatedly, and it does seem to be getting better, but it still exists. The issue is this: someone may have spiritual values, but they don't live them out. There's a disconnect. So I'll use the example of money to illustrate it, but really you can use any subject that you want. Let's say that you value energy from a spiritual perspective. Fantastic. That's all well and good. But money is the physical representation of the exchange of energy. So to say you value energy from a spiritual perspective and in a spiritual context, but then to say you don't value money, shows that there's a disconnect, because they're really the flippin' same. If you value energy, then you value money. Another concept that we can use to illustrate this is love. You can say, I love everyone except those people over there. That's bullshit. If you love everyone, you'll love everyone. Step up and own it. That is indicative of the interplay between Pisces and Capricorn. That is indicative of aligning your spiritual values with how you live your physical world. And I think that is key there. A lot of people are disconnected, as we see in the world today, and we can also see the problems that have arisen because of that. So with this heavy emphasis on Piscean and Capricorn energy for January, it's time to really get into the nuts and bolts. It's time to really ask yourself, okay, I spiritually believe this, I need to adjust my behavior. Or, my behavior says this, I don't believe it spiritually, I need to change my spirituality. You know, there's a lot of people that are afraid to change their spirituality because it takes them outside of their comfort zone. I get that. But ask any seed and they will tell you that you're limited in your growth when you're in your comfort zone. You have to shatter that comfort zone from time to time and take root in the deeper soil of the multiverse reality that we all inhabit so that you can bloom into the being that you really are. This is something that has become apparent to me over the years, which is that someone may be living out a spiritual path that they were raised with. They don't feel fulfilled by it. but they don't do anything about it. Isn't that kind of ridiculous? That's called self-sabotage. So with this heavy emphasis on Pisces and Capricorn, it is encouraging us to deepen our spirituality. It is encouraging us to be visionary. It's encouraging us to embrace the present and the future and let go of the past, of the things that are toxic and no longer serve us, like outdated methods, techniques, and structures and institutions. You know, at one point, many years ago, greed ruled in a nation of fools. And in the United States, we're seeing a labor shortage now, which has been proven to be the result of baby boomers retiring en masse during the COVID epidemic, or just simply dying off. And a lot of people blame the younger generation for that labor shortage, but the numbers and the statistics say no, it's not them, it's the older generations. The reason I point this out is not to point fingers at anyone, because it's a complex situation and there are many more factors that I'm not going into here, but rather to illustrate that now, in order to succeed, corporations have to change what they're doing. They don't have the manpower to do what they need to do. Their systems no longer work because they're outdated and they need changed. That is very symbolic of the interplay between Pisces energy and Capricorn energy. A real good example of this is the emphasis that has been placed in the last few years on working remotely. Now, more and more corporate offices in major cities are in buildings that are sitting empty because the majority of employees work from home, and a lot of employees flip and love that, and they have no intention of coming back to the office, and good for them. So on one hand, the corporations are left holding the bag because they got these buildings that they're paying rent on. But on the other hand, it's their own goddamn fault now, isn't it? This whole thing, it may sound like a rant, but this whole thing is illustrating what I'm talking about. The approach to business that has worked for the last few decades no longer works. So corporations can either dig in their heels and resist the natural flow of change, and we see where that's going, or they can evolve with the people in the workforce and change what they're doing. Anyone got 3 guesses which they're going to do? Like I said, greed rules in a nation of fools. Pretty powerful, isn't it? I find it fascinating because collectively people are finding their voice and saying, we don't have to tolerate this shit anymore. And they're making a living. So, therefore, we can extrapolate this out to say that January is the month of 2022 to say, you know what, I've had it. I've had it with this part of my life. It does not align with my spiritual values. Fuck it. I'm changing what I'm doing in the physical world to be a healthier spiritual being. And I applaud all of you for doing that. Now is the time to say, you know what, I know my worth, and sitting in a cube for 40 hours a week is killing my spirit. I want my spirit back. I want to evolve. I'm not a wage slave, to use a term from the Shadowrun role-playing game. Yeah. January 2022 is kind of like that. So then if you're one of those people in corporate America or in corporations and you're seeing all these changes and you're wondering how it's going to impact you, well, go ahead and ask those questions. But then ask yourself, how are you going to impact it? It may seem like I'm focusing on corporations and big business a lot, but those are all Capricorn institutions. These illustrate exactly what I'm talking about with the connection between the spiritual world and the physical world. Pisces is a water sign, so it's very emotionally driven. And remember the order of the planes when you're trying to make things manifest. First, you make the changes on an inner level, then you get emotionally invested in it, then you precipitate it down to the physical reality that we all share. So that flow is where we're at now in January. We are currently at that time where we can look within ourselves and say, I'm emotionally invested in this, and I'm going to proceed with this. And if people don't like it, then the devil may care. Fuck it. So, going into January, keep all of this in mind. How are you going to recreate your life? By the end of January, you should have a pretty good idea of the changes that need to be made. And then February 6th through April 28th is a fantastic time to put them into motion. And with all of that, I bid you adieu. Many blessings to all of us for success during this upcoming tumultuous month. But remember the key things that we talked about here and implement them. It is only by moving forward in line with our spirit that we will achieve health, success, prosperity, and all good things that will come our way as long as we put in the hard work and as long as we make the tough life choices that we have to make in order to actualize our full potential, our maximum happiness, and our maximum spiritual and personal growth for the upcoming year. So, see you again in a month. As you can see, it's a little bit more fleshed out of a scene than it was in that stark video from November. And as I keep filling up my space, it will continue to look prettier. So if it looks kind of boring right now, just remember it's more colorful than it was in November and February. It'll even be more colorful. Happy calendar new year. Blessings.
I've always felt a little different, a little uneasy between regular folk, a bit of a dreamer, a lost cause, a little non-ordinary, some would say. I think I've always just been this way. My mother said I was special, my father thought I should be feared. But I knew that witchcraft coursed through my veins the first time I tasted the lips of the goddess inside the rain. Yes, I'm a witch, it's true. And sure, we are the ones who believe in the beauty of nature, who believe in the things science, absent of art, cannot explain, who instead of religion would have romance. And sure, you may think we have lost our way, when in the world of predictable things we have such unfamiliar things that we would like to say. But maybe, in a world so cold and alone, a little unfamiliar is exactly what is needed.